Hey, what is your everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In the next coming videos, we will be focusing on Vulkan. Now, I might not necessarily be the best explainer when it comes to Vulkan because Vulkan is such a very verbose API whereby you have to basically define most of everything yourself and set up everything. Unlike OpenGL, where you just have predefined functions that do and handle the things for you essentially, right? To some degree, right? So yeah, when it comes to Vulkan, I am not the best person for advice, but I will definitely try to explain wherever I can. And the whole reason of me doing this video or this series essentially is to just try and get used to working with Vulkan, right? So I've worked with Metal, I've worked with OpenGL, but when it comes to Vulkan, I'm still pretty new to it, right? Not to say that I have quite a lot of experience in the other two rendering APIs, but it's just that I've had much better success rates with those other APIs than I do with Vulkan, because Vulkan is just such a huge thing that you really need to wrap your head around it. But nonetheless, it's not too difficult once you get your hands dirty for a minute. Yeah, I'm about to show you that in this series, so let's get started. So Vulkan, in the next maybe four videos, we're going to be focusing on these four pieces right here. Okay, we're going to create the instance in this video, and then the next video we're going to set up the debugger. Now this I marked as optional because it is optional. You do not need to set up the Vulkan Messenger debugger, but I would suggest that you do set it up, especially if you don't know what you're doing, because you can. Trust me, and you will shoot yourself quite a lot with this API, and the debugger just makes it very, very easy to figure out where exactly you went wrong. Okay, so we're going to set up the debugger, and then we're going to set up our devices, our logical devices and our GPU devices, etc. And then once we have that, we're going to set up our surface, and our surface is going to link up with the platform layer that we set up. Now I have not necessarily, well, I think I have set up everything correctly, but we might see, hence why this list stops here, because once we get to this point, I think I might have to go back to the platform layer and then continue and come back here and do the Vulkan stuff, right? So we'll see if I did actually set up just about what we need for us to reach this point, and go up beyond that as well, right? So how am I gonna basically structure my videos coming forward, or what am I gonna use to essentially do this? Well, I'm gonna use this tutorial, these Vulkan tutorials, to set up our instances and all the other stuff that we are going to set up. Now I know that this is in C++, and our project is in C, so we are not going to be using C++. We are still going to be using C. So whatever you see here that's in C++, I am just simply going to convert it to C. I do not like C++, and I will never use C++ in this series. So for those who are here for C++, unfortunately, this is not the channel for you. But if you'd like to still learn, definitely stick around and stay, and hopefully you'll learn a lot. All right, so yeah, that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to basically take a lot of references from this Vulkan tutorial website, and just convert them into C. All right, so let's get started. And before we get started, let's just take a look at our makefile here, because our makefile needs to be updated to then support Vulkan. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to the engine include flags, and just right next to where we include the source for the engine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another capital I here, I'm going to do another capital I here, and then what I'm going to point this to is where I stored and installed my Vulkan. So I'm going to type a $, then I'm going to type in Vulkan SDK. Now this is an environmental variable that I set when I installed Vulkan, and then I'm going to point that into the include folder. Okay, and then once I've done that, I can basically move away from that. That will just give me all the header files related to Vulkan. All right, next I need to link with Vulkan. So in the linker flags, probably maybe just right after framework quads core, what you want to do is just do a low letter L and then just point that to the Vulkan library. Okay, but before I do that, let's just also link or tell it where to find that library, and I'm going to use a capital L, and then I'm going to just simply point it to where the libraries are for Vulkan. Okay, and this will be followed by $, and then I'm just going to type in Vulkan SDK again. That is my environmental variable for the path in which my Vulkan is actually installed in. Then I'm going to point it into the library folder to essentially look for the libraries that we're going to use. In this case, the Vulkan library itself. And then I'm also additionally going to add another library, which is also part of Vulkan, called shader C. And then I'm going to basically type it like this: shader C dash shared. Now, what is this one for? This one is to allow us to essentially compile shaders at runtime, because down the line we're gonna basically have to compile shaders and everything. So I just want to add it right now so that I do not forget about it. So it's just gonna allow us to compile shaders at runtime rather than having, you know, to compile them using our build or build system, and just have that separated. But I just feel like at some point I just like to have them compiling at runtime, so that I don't always have to forget to compile my shaders and stuff. Okay, and that's it. I would like to believe that this is it that we need. So let's see indeed if it is. So I'm gonna just save my make file here, and I'm just gonna clear my console. Then I'm gonna run make again and see if it boots successfully, and then it's gonna say library not loaded, Vulkan DUI-lib. Okay, so now this is an issue that we might have on macOS, especially now that we're running the engine using the makefile script and it's not cd into the bin folder. And if I clear my console here and I show you, if I cd into the bin folder and then I just run the app, it will just run, and then it will say error opening file makefile, and I do know why that is happening. So let's just go back into the main.c, and because now we're in the bin folder, this won't find this relatively, so we have to basically do / like so. But we do not need the file system at this point in time, so we can just simply delete every single thing that has to do with it in the main function here. So I'm going to save this, then I'm going to clear my console again, then I'm going to cd out of here, then I'm going to make run this once more time, and then cd back into the bin folder, then run my app, and then you'll see that it runs, right? So now it's able to essentially find my Vulkan library, my DUI-lib. So that is pretty sweet. So now what do I do, right? Because I still have this dangling issue, and I don't know if I can fix that. So let me just see. Let's just cd back out of here, and then I'm gonna click outside here so that I can find my finder, then go to home, and in home, this is where I have my Vulkan SDK downloaded and saved, and when I double click on this, you'll see that I also named the inside folder just Vulkan without names or anything like that, numbers or anything like that. And then inside of here we have macOS folder, so I'm going to double click on that. Then we're going to have the library folder, so double click on that, and then what I'm going to look for is the Vulkan DUI-lib. So let's see if we can find it, and here it is. But notice it has this arrow. This is an alias which just points to this guy, so technically what we want is this guy, right? But for now I'm just gonna try and copy both of these. I'm gonna copy both of that, come back into VS Code, then in my bin folder here I'm just gonna say reveal in finder, and then double click my bin folder, and then I'm just going to paste those two files, and then here when I run my make file, I'm going to try and see if it'll fix that issue we had. It might not work, and yes, it does not work, right? And then it's fine. So let's just see if we have CPP properties that point, well, actually we don't have a bold CPP bold config here, so it's fine. We can't really do anything at this point, right? So I guess that's fine. We haven't really set that up, so what will I do? Well, I guess it's not really a problem. It's not really a problem. I guess we'll just run the app for now in the bin folder, and then we'll fix this in a coming video. So yeah, so let's just cd back into the bin and then try and run the app and see if it works. Yes, it does work. And then I can just simply delete these anyway, because, well, they did not fix our issue like I thought it would. So move that to the trash and make sure that it's still here in the normal directory where you installed Vulkan and everything. So it's fine. So now that we know those are the hanging issues that we have, let's finally set up our engine to support Vulkan and work with Vulkan. So in the engine folder, right, in the engine folder, in the source folder, what I want to do is I want to create a new folder. So I'm going to call this runtime, and then inside runtime I'm going to create another folder called renderer, and then inside of renderer I'm essentially just going to create, like, I don't know, a renderer.h file, and then I'm going to do a renderer.c file. Okay, and then within renderer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another folder, and I'm just going to call this one Vulkan. And then inside of there, I'm just going to say Vulkan renderer.h, and then I'm going to do Vulkan render.c. Okay, so our normal renderer here is going to hook up to the functions that we have for Vulkan. Okay, we're just going to basically wrap them up into a normal friendly renderer API. Okay, so everything that's Vulkan will be abstracted away, and then we just use this renderer the functions defined here to then basically do our drawing and everything else, and so forth and so forth. So this will wrap all the Vulkan specific stuff and just hide them under the hood for us, so that we don't have to deal with Vulkan stuff once we basically start, you know, doing some stuff with our engine and so forth. Okay, so now what I want to do is what do I want to do? Oh, it's to basically set up our instance. So to do that, let's go into the Vulkan renderer.h. Then I'm going to do a pragma once up here. I'm going to save this file. Then I'm just going to do an hashtag include. Then I'm going to do Vulkan renderer.h. Then I'm going to go to the Vulkan renderer.h file. Here I'm going to do a pragma once as well. I'm going to save this, go down to the renderer.c. Then I'm just going to do include. Then I'm going to say renderer.h. And then I'm also going to say include. Actually, yes, actually, yeah, include Vulkan slash, well, actually, there should be, let's see the structure here, engine source, so it should be runtime slash renderer slash Vulkan slash Vulkan.h, like so. And then what? File not found, Vulkan renderer file not found. Okay, yeah, now it found it. Okay, good, sweet stuff. Then I'm just gonna close these files that I just opened. Then I'm gonna be back in my main.c file. Then I'm gonna just build and see if anything builds. So I'm gonna cd out of here, and then I'm gonna make, and then everything will get built. So I'm just gonna go to my make file and just disable the run command. Just delete it up there, just so that it doesn't have to run it automatically after building. So I'm just gonna clear my console, make this again, just so that we can have the compilation messages here. All right, so now that we've compiled, I can just cd into my bin folder, then just call app and see if it runs, and it does. So now that we have all that set up, I'm going to come into my renderer.h. Then I'm going to do a boolean function here. Okay, then I'm going to say renderer initialize like so, and then this will basically initialize our renderer. Okay, and then I'm going to have renderer shutdown, and then this should basically shut down our renderer. Okay, I'm going to save that, and then for now we're not going to take in any arguments, and then we'll just modify those signatures as time goes. All right, so then I'm going to paste them in here, then we're going to just populate these. Okay, and for now we're just going to return true on all, so return true, and then here we just say return true. Okay, now that we have this, in our Vulkan Renderer.h, what we want to do here is define some functions. So if you look at the example here, I believe, yeah, they have a function called create instance. So we want to create a similar function to that as well. So we're going to do a boolean. I'm going to say Vulkan create instance. Okay, like so. Then this one will be a boolean. It's going to match up with the ones that we have for the renderer. Okay, renderer initialize, but this one is just going to create the instance. Okay, actually no, they don't match up, but the return type actually matches up, so discard what I just said. And then in the renderer Vulkan renderer.c, just paste this guy here, and then what you want to do is come back to the renderer.c, and then just simply call Vulkan create instance, like so. Okay, then back in here we will basically define this guy. So for now I'm just going to return true, like so. And then back in the renderer here, what we're going to do is, since it's returning a boolean, we're going to do if not Vulkan create instance, then essentially out here we just return false. Okay, this will mean that we failed to initialize. Okay, and then once we have that, let's just come back in here, and now that we are in here, we want to test if indeed we can actually call Vulkan related stuff. So I'm gonna do this and say Vulkan / Vulkan.h, save that bad boy, and then in my main.c, what I'm going to do up here is just say include, then we're going to include runtime, runtime / render.h. Notice that we're not using the Vulkan renderer, define this one, right? So that's good. And then in here, maybe after platform initialize, we can just say renderer initialize. Okay, like so. And then I'm just gonna try and build again. So make build, and then that was successful. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to split my console here. Okay, I'm gonna split it. This side is just gonna be in the root of my project, and then this side is just going to be in the bin folder, just so I don't always have to navigate to the bin folder. I can just build and then just run. Okay, that's a little hack right there. So let me just try and run it. So let's do /app, and then that should run the app, and indeed it works, and we don't have any issues. Lovely. So now what I can do is I can go back to here, and then inside of the Vulkan create instance, this is where we are going to create our Vulkan instance. So if you look at the Vulkan tutorial here, we need an application info, and then we need an instance create info. Okay, so I'm going to set those up, and then basically try and create our instance. Okay, so yeah, so let's try and do that. Let me just read this again. Application info, instance create info. Okay, got it. All right, so up here, what we want to do is say vk application info. Then we're going to say app info equals to, and then we're just going to initialize this to 0. And then we're going to say app info. Then we're going to do s type, and this s type is just going to be a vk structure of type application. Oops, let's type to that, of type application info, like so. And then what I want to do next is just say app info.p application name. Now you guys can give this whatever name you want. For us, it's just a G engine, graphics engine, I guess. And then the other one that we want to fill in is basically going to be the application version. You guys can just fill out this however you like. So I'm gonna say vk make version, and then I'm just gonna say version 1 .0.0, something like that, I guess, right? And then you can maybe have another one here and be like p engine name. You really guys don't really need all of this stuff, especially these application name and the engine name, but I'm just showing you guys that you can fill these in. And then I'm just gonna make them the same. Yeah, right. And then what else? I think, let's see, app info. Then let's see what we have. Engine version as well. So for this one, you can also just use the same technique I used up there. So just say vk make version, and then all you need to do is just pass in the version of your engine, and you'll do that like this. Okay, seems simple enough. Sweet. Then the API version. Now this one is the one you can basically try and copy. All right, so you need this, right? And then you might need this one. Actually, you do need this one that I'm about to type. So you can say API version. This just tells which API of Vulkan that we want to use, which API version of Vulkan that we want to use, right? So I'm going to say vk API version 1.3. Now the reason why I'm saying 1.3 is we are not necessarily going to be following this to the T, because this is sort of like outdated in a sense that they don't show you how to use dynamic rendering, which is something that I want to use. So I'm going to basically set up our Vulkan renderer to support dynamic rendering, and that is only supported in the 1.3 version of Vulkan and upwards. Okay, so yeah. So now once we have this, we need the Vulkan instance create info. So let's do vk instance, and then I'm going to say instance create info. Then I'm going to do create info like this, and then I'm going to also just initialize this to 0. And then once I have it like that, all I'm going to then do is say create info dot s type, and then I'm going to say vk structure type instance create info, like so. And notice how these matches up with the end of these, right? So for this one is application info, and that literally matches up with the end of the vk name there. So sweet. Next, all we need is to say create info dot application info. We're passing in this whole thing into this struct. Okay, so we say application info is then equals to this whole thing. Okay, this whole struct that we just filled up here. So app info like this. And then after setting this up, I think we need the extensions. All right, now notice how they're using glfw here. We don't use glfw. We build our own platform layer. So we could also extend our platform layer to have a function like this that says, hey, platform layer get required extensions, but I'm not going to do that. You guys can do that if you want to, but I already know the extensions on top of my head. So I just like to do that manually or just directly in the Vulkan layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to do, how do I want to do this? In fact, let's test our new container. Remember we created an array container, so let's see if we can use that here. So I'm going to create an array that can hold these extension names. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to say const char pointer, then I'm going to say extensions, like so. Then I'm simply going to say we're going to have to import our array. So that is in, I think that is in core, nope, that is in containers slash array.h. And then I'm simply going to say array create, and then I need you to create a list of chars for me, like so. Yeah, and then now that we have that, I only want, don't know if I need to put a pointer here. I'm not sure. Let's see if it works. Right, then I'm gonna just say extensions, no, array push, and then we're gonna pass in the extensions array. Then I'm going to push the extension that we need, so vk-khr surface. Now I'm not sure vk-khr surface extension name. Let me see if I do this vk-khr surface extension. Yep, this is the one that I need. Does this file have the other extensions that I want? vk swap chain. Am I going to use the swap chain? No. What other ones do we have here? Okay, draw display. Let me see if portability is here. Portability, VKHR portability enumeration. This is one that we also need. So let's just go back to the, yeah, so let's just duplicate that line and then paste this one in here as well. So we're going to need the KHR surface. Then we're going to need the portability enumeration. This is very important if you're on macOS. And then I think the other one that we might need is the metal surface. And I think that one requires us to include another header here. I'm not sure, but let's see. Vulkan slash Vulkan macOS.h, I think. And then I'm just gonna put this here, and then VK surface. I don't know if it's, yeah, I don't know, but let's see. EXT, let's see, metal. Let's see, metal type. That's not what I want. Well, I don't know what it is, but I do know that it's basically spelled this way: VK EXT dash, and then it's gonna be metal surface, something like that, right? Yeah, metal surface, like that. And then those are probably the only ones that we need right now. We don't have any debug utils just yet. And what is this crying about? Initializing const char with an expression of type char char pointer. So I guess I don't need that. Yeah, guess I don't need that. And then once we have this, all we can do is say create info, right? Dot enabled extension count is equals to array get length or get count. This will give us the number of elements in the extensions array. And then we can say create info dot pp enabled extension names. Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking for. Extensions, like so. Now this is where I can fix my mistakes. Now let's see what is this crying about. Incompatible type assigning to const char, const from const char. Take the address with, so let's see. And then here, passing consta qualifies, I think like this, maybe. I really do not know. Let's see. That's very weird. Yeah, that is really weird. Let's see. We have 3 warnings generated. Passing arguments array here. Void array. Macro extensions, discards, qualifiers. So you're simply having the same issues here. I'm noticing, but does that really affect anything? So let's try and run the app and let's see. So everything still works. However, I would like some feedback to see if these items are actually being added. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to include my debugger, my logger here. So let's do core/logger.h. Then I'm going to say L, I don't know, warn maybe, just so that I can see the count. That's a number, and let's do this like so. Then clear this bad boy, make, then clear this side, and just run the app and see if we're getting something. And yeah, something is definitely not right. Interesting. Alright, so I played around with this, and all I needed to do was just put another const on this side because we have a const in the other, and then yes, we need a double pointer here, and that should fix our issue. So if I run this now, if I build, then I run, let's see. Yes, so we still get, remove that end, and then build this again, and then let's see, let's quit, then rerun. Then we should get the correct count there, which is 3 elements in the list. Sweet stuff. So we can get rid of the stuff right there, and then get the array count. That should just be like this. The extensions, that's perfectly fine. And then I think now all we then need to do is essentially try and create our instance. So what I'll do is essentially just do that. But before I do that, let's just do create info, enabled, enabled layer count, set this to 0, and then create info dot layer names, set that also explicitly to 0. That's because we don't have any layers active for that yet. So all we can do for now is just set that to 0, right? Then we need to call the create instance method. So I'm going to do that here, and then I'm going to do a vk result, and then I'm going to say result is equals to vk create instance, and then I'm going to pass in the create info. So that will be create info. So let's do at create info. The allocators, we don't have any just yet. And then the instance, instance. I'm just gonna create a variable for that here. It's not gonna live there, but just for testing purposes, vk instance, I'm gonna say instance like this. And then I'm gonna pass in the instance like so. Okay, and then we're going to check that result. What they're doing here is some C++ magic, the runtime errors and stuff, but oh well, let's just do the way we do it in C. So let's just say result, if result does not equals to vk success, And then we just want to error out the message, right? So we're gonna say error failed to create instance, and then we're just gonna print out the error code there. So D result, like so. And that's about it, right? So if I try and rebuild that, then here we just clear and then run the app, then we have a sag fault. Interesting. Okay, so let me try and debug that. Alright, so the reason why we sag faulting is I forgot an ampersand sign here. So I need to add one there as well. And then when we try and make this one more time and finally run it, it should run, and we should get an error here saying failed to create instance, and then it throws us an error of -9. Now if we say on Google real quick and we do Vulkan VK result -9 like this, then we're gonna see what it means, right? So we're just gonna check what the -9 means, and it just simply says we have an incompatible driver error. So that's because we're on Mac, and on Mac we need extra things like we need the portability enumeration extension, and then I do believe that we need something else. It was had to do with flags or something. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. So we need to add this bit of line. So in our create info, maybe I don't know where I want to put this. Let's just put it here. So create info dot flags, and then we just need to set this flag right here. Okay, so VK create enumeration. Let me just paste it first. VK create enumerate portability bit KHR, and then save. And then I think that's the only bit that we needed that was remaining for the Mac side of things. So if I try and run this, it should work, right? So it worked. We don't get an error. In fact, if I just close this real quick, clear up our console, and not run make, and run the app. So let me just build it again. Then I clear my left side. Then on this side, we just run the app, and then you'll notice that we don't have any errors saying, hey, whatever, something failed or anything like that. So everything seems to be working. We managed to create our instance. So this is where I'm gonna leave it for today's video. Yeah, this is where I'm going to leave it for today's video. We have a basic, pretty nice system set up here, API, and when we come here, all we're doing is just calling the renderer initialize for now, which then in turn in here just calls the Vulkan create instance function. In the next video, we are going to add what is this, validation layers. This is going to require us to set up a debug messenger, this guy here, which will then help us debug our Vulkan code in the long term. So we're going to set up our debug messenger in the next video, and then from there we will set up our devices, pick our GPU, and then after picking that, we'll have another video to set up the surface, and then I think from there things should start to take shape. All right, so see you guys in the next one. Take care and cheers.